Grüezi miteinander, ganz herzlich willkommen und einen wunderschönen guten Tag, meine sehr verehrten Damen und Herren, liebe Freunde. Ich begrüße Sie zu dieser Sondersendung von Weltwoche Daily, die andere Sicht, unabhängig, kritisch, gut gelaunt, aus Belgrad, hier aus dem Präsidentenpalast am Montag, dem 24. März 2025. Ich habe die große Ehre und Freude, wieder zu begrüßen hier in unserem Programm den Präsidenten Serbiens, Alexander Vučić, und ich werde jetzt gleich auf Englisch wechseln, damit wir uns verständigen können. Mr. President, it's a great privilege and honor to have this conversation. Today is the 24th of March 26 years ago, there was the bombing of Belgrade, a tragic date in the history of your country. What is for you personally the most important lesson you take out of these events, the bombing of Belgrade on the 24th of March 1999?
Too many lessons. Too many lessons. Really honored and privileged to have an opportunity to speak to you. And whenever we remember all the people that were killed during that NATO aggression, as we say here, and people need to know one thing. It was done absolutely in an illegal way, which means without even a discussion that was held in a Security Council, UN Security Council, with no decision of United Nations Security Council. 19 NATO member states united against one small country. At that time, they were 519 times richer than Serbia altogether, 228 times bigger, speaking about the surface of territory, and 160 times bigger by population. And they attacked one small country, and they violated an international public law. And this is something that created a big precedent in the world, which many people call Kosovo precedent, because that precedent means that big powers, when they wanted to do it, they violated international public law, they organized, they endorsed, they supported secession of a territory that belonged to the sovereign state, internationally recognized state. And they were saying that was because they had a holistic approach, and they were very altruistic, and they were very humanitarian oriented and very human oriented and everything else. Now when the others are doing similar stuff, they are absolutely against it, saying, well, this is against an international public law, which we have been saying for 26 years. Personally, I remember that people were dignified, proud. Everybody's afraid, but they were actually very brave in their resistance to NATO at that time. And we knew from the very beginning that we had no chances. But what was offered to Serbia, the outcome was inevitable. They wanted to humiliate us. That plan in Rambouillet was actually part of an overall plan for Serbia to refuse it, because no one was able to accept it. Even Henry Kissinger was saying that paper was designed for Serbs to refuse it, because no other sovereign state in the world could have accepted. And then they found a sufficient reason, as always, one incident which we believe that was an anti-terrorist battle against well-armed terrorists in Kosovo, and they were saying that those 52 people were civilians, and they used that as a reason for bringing up final decision against Serbia, and they started bombardment of Serbia, Novi Sad, Belgrade, all our positions in Kosovo and all over Serbia. And in first days, tonight we're gonna have a big sad ceremony in Batajnica, close to Belgrade. That's the place where they killed 2-year-old girl, Milica Rakic, and they killed at the same time Bojana, close to Kuršumlija. She was 1 year old, and they were always using the same words, the same idiom, which was collateral damage. Everybody was collateral damage. Even for them, collateral damage was 16 people that were killed here at our state TV premises. And this is a sort of pride, speaking about mixture of emotions, pride, bitterness, and also something that we know, that we learned, that we have to be future-oriented, but also never to forget what happened at that time. And now you see that everything they were doing against us, now it's like a boomerang coming back to them.
In what sense you mean?
I mean, whatever they were doing against us, now they see with Ukraine that even Russians are using the same narrative as they were using against us. And it's a smart decision by Russian top leadership. Would have done the same if I were them. It's not good for us, but it's good for them. And what kind of response you can provide to them? Saying that bombardment of Serbia was legal. It was not, and they know it. And they just want to avoid any kind of stories about it and not to be heard. And when they have to say one sentence, they say, well, we avoided a big humanitarian disaster in Kosovo. Exactly the same sentence that was used by Donetsk and Lugansk people. They were saying, well, it's a humanitarian disaster, they don't treat us well, and that's it. And now I ask my friends in the West, okay, tell me, what did you do in 1999? And are you going to be more supportive to international public law rules or not? And I'm very much afraid of the situation in Bosnia today and what they do, what they try to do with Republika Srpska as well. And I hope that things are not going to be returned, at least.
Before we talk about
that I was
it's
a lot of your time on one.
no. It's of course it's a very important issue in the history of Serbia and also in the history of the European Union and NATO. Let us first talk about these protests that are hitting the headlines now of the international press. Just to give our viewers a bit the context, the students have taken the streets in several Serbian cities. Last week you had a huge protest here in the city of Belgrade. The immediate trigger was a tragedy in the northern Serbian city of Novi Sad in November 24 when 16 people died when a train station canopy collapsed. And now we see these protests, huge numbers of people. What exactly are they accusing you of? What is it about? What do they attack you about in this whole affair?
Almost for nothing. They say that it's not my competence, it's not my authorities to deal with that. 3 demands, 3 requests are referred to prosecutor's office. One was addressing the government, and the government delivered fully, and they couldn't refute the fact that government fulfilled that, they accepted that, they recognized that. But as a matter of fact, it's a bit more complicated. Of course, it's anti-governmental and anti-Vučić protests supported by all the opposition parties, supported and mainly paid from outside, because nobody wants to see an independent policy of this country. Nobody wants to see people that are taking decisions by themselves. And if you followed, and I believe that you followed that properly, protests in Hong Kong, the code name was water. Like, you cannot see anyone, it's just everywhere. No leaders, no protagonists, no one that you can really analyze or scrutinize or to show to the public. And it's the same pattern here. And all the NGOs paid by Oak Foundation from Britain, USAID, National Endowment for Democracy, Swedish SIDA, and all the others are participating in these protests, and many regional countries on behalf of some other bigger countries which don't want to appear here publicly and openly, and that's it. It's not easy. I do listen to those people. I believe it's important to listen to them, but I have no fear to say what I really think. This is an attempt of color revolution, and which was obviously seen by Chinese, by Russians, by many Americans. But in Europe it's a bit different, because they know who was paying those NGOs and all the others. Or maybe they would like to see some changes in Serbia. We'll see.
Are there any legitimate concerns of these students, or would you say they are all somehow politically instrumentalized?
At the beginning they were saying always that they were against violence. Now in the last 20 days, when they started blocking people, causing hostage crises even on public service, bus transportation lines in Belgrade as well, but also with the opposition leaders participating in violent activities. They did it in the parliament, but the attacks against mayor of Niš and women in particular in Niš, these were horrible scenes, and people didn't like to see it. And it was a big surprise for me. The students and their professors were silent about it. I thought that they were going to, even in a weak way, to condemn it, but they didn't do it actually. And now I think that people started to realize what was going on and what is happening in Serbia.
And who you would say is actually the driving force behind it? I mean, it's you alluded to NGOs, international organizations. Who is actually behind it?
I'll tell you, it's liberal deep states and states from the western part of the world that were organizing it, and then teaching them, lecturing them, and then leaving them to finish the job.
And what kind of reactions do you get from the European Union? And what role does the European Union play in all this?
When there was an accidental attack of an ordinary people against students, they were reacting immediately. When we had the most terrible event so far, which happened in Niš 2-3 days ago, you're going to get all video snippets to see it and to use it for your medias. The real issue is that they did not react at all, because violence is to be condemned when it fits and it suits them well politically, and violence did not happen if it doesn't suit them well. And that's it. That's how it goes, and that's how it went so far. Tomorrow I have an important meeting with Antonio Costa and Ursula von der Leyen, and I really hope that we'll be able to at least listen to each other and to understand each other a bit better.
Do you think that you are punished now because of your position, not taking over the sanctions against Russia, going on for an independent policy, that, the people in Brussels, they don't like it, they just want to bring Serbia online?
No doubt that I'm punished, but I'm proud to be punished. If you believe that you can break someone's will, blackmailing him and saying you're not going to remain in power or whatever, I don't care. I don't care. So what? it's much better to remain dignified, firm, tenacious in protecting your politics and showing to the world the real reasons of this kind of mutiny and unrest and riots they organized all over Serbia. And as you can see, I don't change my mind. I didn't change it at all from the very first moment. And even on 14th of December, when fulfilling all their demands, I was saying, although we are doing so, although we are fulfilling everything they asked for, they will never accept it, because this is something bigger, organized from outside, and they will say the demands were not fulfilled or taken seriously by the government or whatever.
And how to cope with this as a president? I mean, is this the most difficult situation of your presidency, and how to get out of this problem, how to deal, how to cope with these protests?
There had been many difficult situations. This is internally, no doubt, the most difficult one. But, when you have nothing to lose, I have no bank accounts in Switzerland. You're coming from Switzerland. I have no bank accounts in Great Britain, Germany, Italy, France, United States, Russia, China, United Arab Emirates, nowhere in the world. I am not a very rich person. I'm very much proud of everything what we did here in this country. If there had been no protests this year in this country, we would have been #1 or fastest growing economy in Europe this year. These people spoiled that intentionally, on purpose. And they were saying that publicly. But anyway, I'll continue my fight. And no one can convince me, and no one can persuade me that we did something very much wrong or whatever, because even we coped, we tackled that situation in Novi Sad in a very responsible way. I was visiting most of the families, was attending funerals, commemoration sessions and everything else. Prosecutor's office did its job in a very fast way, much faster than they did it in similar situation in the other countries. We did our job. And it happens. It really happens all over the world in every single country. I'm not ashamed of anything. Was working for the last 13 years very diligently, very dedicatedly, and will continue to work in a same manner. Is it easy? No, it's not easy. For the first time, my youngest son had to leave Belgrade. He didn't leave country, of course, but he had to leave Belgrade because there were some threats to my family, and he went somewhere 60, 70 kilometers away from Belgrade. This is something that you take personally in a very difficult way, but I was here, sitting in this building, and they were all around me, and was doing my job, and will always do. That's my job. That's why I'm elected by our people, and will serve for my people and for the sake of my country, not for the interests of anyone else in the world.
There have been reports also in our media claiming that a so-called sonic weapon was used against demonstrators. How do you respond to these allegations?
It's a brutal lie. And now even they say that it was a lie. Now they ask us, okay, what happened? I say, no, you were lying. You were saying that it was acoustic weapons. It was not. It's a brutal lie. And we invited FBI from the United States of America and FSB. Please scrutinize it and tell the truth.
And did they come?
No, they didn't come yet, but I can tell you, the producer of that sonic or acoustic weapons publicly said that it was not used. Just for you to know. Regarding the objectivity and professionalism of your media.
Yeah. I mean, the situation
is the producer. Yes.
I mean, the situation is very disturbing. You remember the speech of Vice President Vance in Munich, yes, where he said to the European leaders, it's not China and Russia being a threat to Europe, but it's the European Union, it's the Europeans themselves, because they do not take seriously democracy. You know, they are against free speech. Now, my impression is that in several countries at the moment, you look at Romania, you look at Serbia, everywhere where there are politicians, Georgia, Hungary, Slovakia, everywhere you got a politician who is not on the mainstream, he's not falling in line, he gets into trouble. I mean,
which are not obedient enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, is that? I mean, how do you explain that? How do you analyze that? I mean, what's going on here? What's the deeper root cause at work here?
Easy to be analyzed. It's the same pattern, is the same cause, the same reason for that, and that's it. And they have even better or more fertile soil here because of the regional countries. They really eagerly try to overthrow me here, to topple me down, because they would like to see much weaker Serbia. While, let's say, Croats would like to see strong Serbia. No way for that, and no reasons for that, speaking from their point of view. And they would like to be very much supportive to all these protesters, media-wise. It's a big platform for Serbia's protesters. It's Zagreb, it's Pristina, it's Tirana, and it's Sarajevo as well. And it's easy to be seen. And if you add what I have already told you about Western services, Western intelligences being engaged in this, then it's even more difficult to repel and to reject all these attacks. But so far we didn't use force at all. Not at all. Not a single beta, not a single stick was used, nothing at all. And that's why they were mad. That's why they had to lie. That's why they had to fabricate that lie about acoustic weapon and everything else. And I said to them, just for you to know, Roger, I said to them, okay, if that happened, I'm not going to be the president anymore. And after that, they occasionally repeat their accusations, but mainly they stop saying that. Furthermore,
is there the possibility of new elections that you offer? You say, okay, let's have new elections earlier than planned, or how does it go?
They don't want to see any elections. They don't want to see any referendums. They don't want to see anything. They don't want really to see the people's will. They just want to make orders using kids and students because they know that nobody wants to touch them. And politicians from the opposition are really misusing them, and professors and all the others, which creates a really difficult situation. But we were very calm, tranquil, stable, and very cautious and very prudent, even organizing defense of the institutions, and everything else, just without using any kind of force. But hopefully we'll be able to finish it within a month or two.
But is it? I mean, if I listen to you, one has the impression this is a kind of attempted coup d'etat. I mean, it's the revolution of the street against an elected president, no elections, they just want to push him aside. Is it a coup d'etat at the moment, or the attempt of having a coup d'etat here in Serbia, in Belgrade?
Yes, it is. I have been saying that for quite a while, and it's very obvious, and it was said by many officials from outside. It is. That's what they try to do.
And you have no support whatsoever from Brussels?
No, not at all. They see things a bit differently. I cannot say that they were publicly and openly on their side, but no doubt. No doubt that was happening, and no doubt it is happening still.
United States of America, have you contact to the American administration?
I believe that America has an official America. White House has a different attitude today. But it's not White House that is still dealing with all the stuff. It's a deep state, and we'll see. what will be their official statement. But so far, Grenell and all the others were saying everything against attacks on institutions in a very public and open way.
But have you telephoned with President Trump? Have you explained to him the situation?
I was hosting his son, Donald J. Trump, 10 days ago, and I hope that we'll have an opportunity to meet President Trump in next 2-3 months.
Well, we wish you, of course, best luck in this difficult situation. Let's talk about the war in Ukraine. I mean, since our last conversation, things have changed dramatically. We have now an American president.
In the way that we were predicting, if you remember what we were speaking in Switzerland, exactly what we were foreseeing that was happening.
So what do you think about these current discussions between Presidents Putin and Trump? Are you hopeful that this war will end soon?
I don't think it's going to end soon, but I think it is very important to get on board both Americans and Russians discussing the main issues of the world. And I think that they started dealing with a big package. One part of that package is Ukraine, which is going to be the most difficult for Russians, not for Americans. But there are many other things. It's trade deals, it's geopolitical interest zones and everything else. And I think that they both want to undermine geopolitical and economic position of Europe and European Union. I think that became a common denominator for Americans and Russians as well. Whether they will be successful or not, I'm not sure, but I hope that at the end they'll be able to bring peace, and that will mean a lot to all of us.
What do you think about these attempts now in the European Union with huge credits, with mountains of debt to bring up the armament, to bring up the armed forces? What do you think about these tendencies now in Brussels and in, like Berlin, other capitals?
Those people are 10 times smarter than I am, but I have my right to think by myself, and I think that's just a procrastination of the tragedy and of the war that we had so far, and there is no real solution. And it cannot be never-ending story, and I'm not sure that that will be enough for Ukrainians to win the war. Not at all.
But it's amazing that the European Union has a policy, or seems to have a policy now, which would prolong the war, whereas the Americans and the Russians sit at the table to end the war. Is the European Union at the moment on some kind of eternal war path, as Elon Musk indicated? What do you think?
I very much appreciate and very much respect Elon Musk, and I think he's a very courageous, very brave man. But what I would like to add is that I think that Europe needs not to flatter its own constituencies, but to find the rational solutions. That's all I can say. They would like to stick to their so-called values, but there are different interpretations of those values. And I think that they need more than ever rational approach and sober discussion on everything. But who am I to advise them on this? They know it, no doubt, much better than I do.
I had a discussion recently with one politician from Germany, and she's, you could say, like the epitome of the mainstream. I mean, she embodies the mainstream, and she was saying that it's absolutely clear for her and for them that President Putin, if he is not stopped, he will attack other countries in Europe. This is clear as the sun dawn in the morning.
I don't believe in that. I don't know who that was, but I just don't believe in that, because to me, there was German philosopher Leibniz, and he was using this term sufficient reason. That has always been sufficient reason to frighten the others and to use that fear in order to create your politics, and that's it. I don't think that's Putin's idea, and I don't think that Putin has an interest to do so, but maybe they're much smarter and they have better intelligence than I do.
Well, sir,
just to remind you, I knew that Putin was going to attack Ukraine, and I was saying that publicly before it happened, and they were saying it was not going to happen. And I don't think that Putin will attack either Romania, Moldova, or Baltic countries or whatever. That's what I think.
Why not?
He wants to be a part of the world again when reaching some of his most important state and national interests from his point of view. Then he wants to live regularly. He wants to see sanctions lifted and everything else.
I mean, the fascinating thing about Serbia is that your country is totally, you could say, on the border of this conflict we see now in Europe, West against East. And your country has always been an outpost of Christian culture, defending the Western culture, the Christian culture. And on the other hand, you are also a country which has always built bridges between East and West. And what is, according to you, what would be the right philosophy for Europe in the future? If you see what kind of shape the world takes on, what's your advice from the history of Serbia, from your historical experience? What should Europe do? At the moment, the Europeans are somehow in conflict with Russia, a bit with the United States. What would you suggest? What is the best way for Europe in the future?
First of all, there are three things. But before that, I would like to tell you, 1389, we had that big Kosovo battle, which Serbs lost against Sultan Murat. But we killed Murat, at least. And it caused a big postponement, big procrastination for Turks, and they reached Mohacs, which is today's central Hungary, 140 years after. 1526 was that Mohacs battle. They were reaching Vienna far later than it would have been the case if there was no Serbia. And speaking about today's situation, I think that Europe has to invest hugely, not into ordnance, armament, weaponry. I believe they have to invest hugely into semiconductors, finest chips and everything else, because with combustion engines, Europe had a huge advantage comparing to Chinese. With hybrid and electric engines, Chinese are ahead of us. Then Americans as well. It will ruin our automotive industry, and we'll pay a big price apart from Germans, French and all the others, because as you know, we have many companies here for automotive spare parts. Even electric cars are being made here in Kragujevac from Stellantis. And this is of an utmost importance for Europe. And if I were them, would have invested all these hundreds of billions into artificial intelligence, semiconductors, and that would be my target, my aim. Number two, would do everything to unite Europe this or another way. Mm-hmm. Everybody, you cannot have even a small soul in a left shoe, you cannot stand it anymore. And then would like to strengthen European position worldwide, and it was wise by Ursula von der Leyen to go to India to discuss many things with Narendra Modi, but she needs to do it also with China, with all the African countries, and all our positions in Africa and Asia are very weak. And it's not about one meeting or two meetings or three meetings, it's about permanent presence in their markets, and not only in their markets, and founding production units and everything else. It's a bit different, and we cannot, like Western Roman Empire, enjoy and indulge our lives, using fontaines, forums, theaters, and saying those savage guys will never reach us. and then all of a sudden it all falls. It's just we need to understand the situation, and we need to be very sober. We need to be as rational as it is possible, and that's it. If not, very soon no one will ask Europe for anything.
You're a politician who is regularly attacked in the mainstream media, especially in German-speaking media. They always criticize you. That's now my question to you is the following. I mean, what is your most underrated quality? What do those critics not see about President Vučić? What would you consider your greatest achievement so far?
I cannot speak about great achievements, but you need to hear just few numbers. At the end, it's about results. When I became the Prime Minister, the overall GDP of Serbia was 32 billion euros. We are going to finish this year with 93 billion. I think it's quite a huge margin, quite a huge difference. Speaking about level of unemployment, it was 25.9%, now it's 8.2%. Speaking about average salaries, average wages, speaking about net salary, it was 329, now it's 960. It's almost 1,000 euros, and it's going to be 1,000 euros by the end of the year. And the public debt to GDP ratio when I became the Prime Minister was 79%. Now it's 52%. And these are the real results. What people always underrate and underestimate is hard work, and it's the fact that they have their own views from those liberal medias. They have their own so-called ideas, if you can call it ideas. And they believe that punching and hammering the people that are thinking differently, they can do something. I don't care what they say. I have my targets, I have my aims, I have my mind. I am not afraid of anyone. As a young person, as a football fan, was apprehended, arrested dozens of times. I have no problems with everything they organize against me in this country, with everything they organize against me all over the world. But at the end, something that no one can take it from me, it's results. And if you just go to the terrace and see how does it look, Belgrade Promenade today, Belgrade waterfront area, all the facades here, everything in this country, it's totally different country. We built more kilometers of highway in last 10 years than in 60 years before last 10 years. This is quite a something. And at least we successfully kept peace and stability of the region. No wars, no big clashes. This is something that I'm very much proud of. And
your next goal for Serbia, what would that be? What's the achievement you want to achieve?
It's all related to that Expo. It's not about Expo as it is Expo, but it's about everything that we put in front of ourselves as a result that we would like to deliver before that exhibition starts. And it's totally new country, it's new railroads, it's new scientific and technological parks. It's brand new Serbia. And we have 1.5 years, a bit more. We need to finish everything till December the 1st, 2026. And I'm fully in that, apart from this protest that you have to cope with, that you have to tackle it on a daily basis. And this is something. And then people will estimate, people will assess it, whether it was a good era for Serbia or not. I believe that historians, using all the data, using all the figures, will have a very, very clear and very right conclusion.
My last question, a personal question. I mean, as a president, naturally you're very alone. I mean, you're a lonely person at the top of a government, at the top of a state. You have huge demonstrations, people who want to push you out of your office. You know, they want that you're not in office anymore. In those moments when you see that thousands are walking against you, what are you doing then? What gives you the strength? What gives you the hope to continue? What do you do in these, I guess, dark moments?
Everything you strived for, everything you know you did, everything you know that you are doing, it's about clean, consciousness and approach. That means that you have to fight. You have to fight for the country. You have to fight for your cause, for your aims, for your targets, and that's it, in a peaceful way. And if I was not doing these good things, there would have never been this kind of big demonstrations, big protests. Everybody would be satisfied around us, apart from Serbian people. Now Serbian people are more satisfied, but of course there are a big group of people, false elite guys and all the others, that are unhappy, and they want to once again come to power, and we'll see. I believe that they have no chances in a legal and fair elections, but they don't want to have elections. And they have one chance. They need to kill me in order to create this transitional government or whatever, because I'm not going to give in. I have my principles. I have my ideas. I have my ideology. That's more important than my life. Thank you.
Mr. President, thank you very much for this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.